The insurance crisis is spreading like a wildfire itself.
And it's creating a real crisis for consumers in Washington.
What really frustrates me is that they throw their fire department under the bus.
I think it's dire now, but it's getting worse.
You feel helpless.
I'm King 5 investigator Kristen Goodwillie. Thank you for joining us for this Coverage Crisis Special. Wildfires in the Pacific Northwest are increasing. I'm standing in this massive burn scar from a wildfire this year near Yakima. Structures like the one behind me burned, as well as 3 homes. As the state learns to live with these longer fire seasons, I expose that homeowners in Washington state are having to pay the price for wildfires before they ever ignite. I'm not talking about burned down structures, but just the risk of wildfire is driving insurance companies to drop more residents than ever before, leaving them struggling to find coverage.
I think this area right here.
Reggie Egger spent decades
It's green, it doesn't burn as good.
and tens of thousands of dollars meticulously ensuring his home in Plain, Washington would withstand a wildfire.
I just thought, well, damn it, I gotta do something.
That's why he was shocked in May when Farmers Insurance dropped him.
Because of fires.
This isn't the first time an insurer dumped Egger. In 2017, PEMCO dropped him because of the increasing wildfire risk. What he didn't anticipate was how hard it would be to find new coverage. He knocked on the doors of several agencies.
6 or 7.
Their main reason for not insuring you was wildfires.
They didn't even really want to. A couple of them didn't really even want to talk to me. I'm not the only one.
State records obtained by King 5 show he's right. The problem is getting worse. The Washington State Office of the Insurance Commissioner has received more wildfire-related policy complaints of being dropped in the first half of this year than the last 2 years combined. And that's leaving homeowners scrambling to find new coverage, worried about keeping their mortgages, and wondering if they need to or even can sell their homes.
You feel helpless.
This Benton County man's complaint says he spent upwards of $100,000 to protect his property, only to be dropped like flies. A man in rural eastern Washington complained his insurance company suddenly dumped him with no recourse, saying no effort was made to contact me or to work with me.
I don't want to see companies leaving the Washington market.
Insurance Commissioner Mike Kreidler admits the state isn't tracking how many homeowners are being dropped. That means his office doesn't know if it's actual wildfire risk or financial gain prompting insurance companies to dump clients at a record rate.
I'm not saying that we don't have issues out there, but how much of it is driven because of wildfire exposure and how much of it is driven because of the economic issues.
You clean all the limbs up.
Egger says at its core, the company he's paid into for years is supposed to protect him from disaster. Getting dropped feels like a betrayal.
I realize that there's some companies out there that don't give a squat about their clients.
I don't think anyone's asking for people to feel sorry for insurance companies, but it is important for people to understand what's happening in the insurance industry.
Kenton Brine is the president of the advocacy group, the Northwest Insurance Council. Federal data backs up his claim. Wildfires are causing insurance companies to lose money. He says paying for wildfire damage and destruction is skyrocketing, and rebuilding a home costs more than ever.
It's the biggest issue of our time right now.
Industry advocates say insurance companies aren't making offhand decisions. They're doing their due diligence. They say they assess wildfire risk with satellite images, climate change projections, and wildfire history. But critics say the system is far from transparent.
In '98, started to log the whole property. I didn't want my place burned up.
Egger is working to guarantee his property will withstand wildfire, taking every measure to show insurers he's minimizing that risk. But some companies admit it doesn't matter. State records King 5 obtained included this Progressive insurance letter to an Issaquah homeowner. It says while it encourages her to reduce the property's wildfire risk, any improvements are unlikely to change anything.
They just know, for some reason, I can't fix it. Once you get over here, we'll see the difference.
Not only has Reggie Egger worked hard to keep his property safe from fire, he was a volunteer firefighter for 13 years with Lake Wenatchee Fire and Rescue.
I have confidence in him.
Lake Wenatchee Fire and Rescue wrote this letter on his behalf, saying in their district it has not seen a single home lost to wildfire in over 10 years. Egger says many potential insurers wouldn't even look at it.
At least logical people are going to do everything they can to make their places safe as they can.
Egger finally got homeowners insurance with USAA, but it came with strings attached. His premiums tripled. His daughter took over the expenses. The reality of someone on a fixed income. With a home, the insurance industry decided is a wildfire risk, no matter what.
But if they only want to insure the sure things, that's not insurance. To me, if they want to insure in Washington, then they should insure everyone.
These are all of the non-renewal complaints I went through. People up and down the I-5 corridor from Issaquah, Monroe, Bothell, all of them dropped by their insurance companies because of this wildfire risk. And here in Yakima, officials tell me homeowners are dealing with the same thing. But one of Washington's most popular tourist destinations may have a solution. Chelan County is trying to be completely fireproof, so its residents can stay in the place they call home.
We're trying to clear out everything on the brush side, and we're going to take ladder fuels out so they're not touching the canopy.
Those living in Chelan County are working hard to combat the effects of climate change and an increasingly tense insurance crisis that's coming with it.
Good work being done.
They're trying to go from responding to wildfires to becoming fireproof.
So that fire can come through, but it doesn't cause the damage that it normally would.
Firefighters are aiming to protect lives, property, and insurance policies. But homeowners aren't buying it, saying they've been unfairly dropped with wildfire risk as an excuse. In the last year, formal complaints about that into the state have doubled.
This used to all be thick with bushes, small trees.
Homeowner Jeremy Britton has been dropped by insurance companies twice. He says each time he was able to get new insurance, his premiums increased by 50%.
Well, I wish they would at least consider the work that people have done. Take a closer look at what is the risk really, just because I feel like they're just like, oh, there's a wildfire potential in this entire area, and so therefore we're not going to insure people.
In the past, homeowners were responsible for getting rid of fire fuel around their homes. Now, firefighters like these are doing the job. Thinning trees, clearing undergrowth, and cleaning up evacuation routes. A big undertaking when the Wenatchee National Forest is like a match waiting to ignite.
I guess you're on your own.
This 2018 Forest Service report ranked 100 cities in Washington and Oregon based on the communities most threatened by wildfire. 4 cities in Chelan County made it in the top 10, with Leavenworth at the very top. The city O'Brien is trying to protect.
I think it's dire now, but it's getting worse.
With fire seasons longer, hotter, and more destructive, the firefighters here are working year-round. They're trying to show insurers they're going above and beyond to protect the community.
We used to do inspections, now we're actually removing the fuel.
It's not just firefighters.
Just removing fuel, and that's critical.
Citizens like John Callahan are stepping in to meet the goal of making Leavenworth fireproof, or close to it. He's the president of an organization that leads town halls,
What we call a neighborhood get-together.
arranges education groups, and secures grants to help Chelan County prepare for the inevitable when a wildfire sparks.
People are becoming much, much more aware of it.
You get dry fuel on the ground.
Now Jeremy Britton feels like it's only a matter of time until he's dropped again. He hopes to push back that date by protecting his home before a wildfire comes through.
If I get dropped again, I don't know what I'll do. I think it would be pretty hard to sell a home with no ability to insure it from fire.
It's a worry for those that live in Leavenworth. What happens to a town when no one in it can get insurance?
If people can't get insurance, how do they live there?
For the man trying to make Chelan County fireproof, it's frustrating that insurance companies appear to be dropping homeowners no matter what.
And there doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason for how and when they're dropping people. It's frustrating, irritating.
But the community continues to chip away with the hope that someone will acknowledge their work.
That's got to mean something to somebody.
Firefighters across the state are taking charge to help Washington's insurance crisis. More homeowners than ever say they are being unfairly dropped by insurance companies for wildfire risk. I'll show you how firefighters are trying to change this decades-old rating system used by insurers to cut people off.
3 is 231 and all of Rail Canyon.
Despite hearing this evacuation order for the 2021 Ford Corkscrew fire north of Spokane,
see all the fire all along the deck there.
John Lowe stayed and fought the wildfire, charging over this hillside and towards his home.
It went up and over this house and landed out here like a tsunami of fire.
30 homes were destroyed. Lowe watched his neighbor's house melt under the heat.
I was just protecting myself at that point. Hardy plank. It doesn't melt, it doesn't burn.
His home, outfitted to withstand wildfire, is among the 48 saved by the Stevens County Fire Department. It's a well-trained outfit that rolled up Lowe's driveway as fire closed in.
Brush trucks have one hose reel that comes off the back.
Stevens County Fire Chief Mike Busey says they have a great record of success. His team fought 41 wildland fires this season, no homes burned, and that's an average.
So this is Tender 9, affectionately termed the Beast.
It's partly due to their investment in specialized equipment like this custom-designed wildfire tender. It carries 2,500 gallons of water.
Being able to get that much water off-road in remote locations is vital, but none of that gets any recognition.
He says the state-mandated organization that analyzes fire risk to buildings ignores their successes with battling wildfires.
They just want to turn around and blame homeowners.
To help determine premiums and whether or not you can get homeowners insurance, the organization, the Surveying and Rating Bureau, gives each community a rating between 1 and 10. And 8, 9, or 10 is the worst, meaning homeowners there will have a tough time getting insured.
It's almost criminal not to include fire district capabilities in that matrix.
They say the system favors big cities by using criteria like numbers of hydrants, water supply, and building codes, things that are important in a city. In rural areas, one of the main factors of success is fighting wildfires, yet the rating system barely takes that into consideration. The area where Stevens County saved John Lowe's house gets a lousy 7 rating, despite the department's strong record with wildfires.
We definitely are constantly evaluating our criteria.
President and CEO of the Rating Bureau, Carl Newman, says insurance companies aren't asking them to include wildfire information, and if homeowners are getting dropped, it's not because of their rating system. The Surveying and Rating Bureau is funded by the insurance industry.
There are fire chiefs who are asking us to do more in relation to wildfire. Our customer and the people paying for that data and information are the insurance companies, and they are not currently asking us to do that.
It's not just a controversy in eastern Washington, but on this side of the mountains as well. Surrounded by water, part of Fox Island near Gig Harbor has a 9 rating, about as bad as you can get. According to the Rating Bureau, that 9 was dished out after its volunteer fire department went to being staffed part-time.
It just doesn't make any sense.
Doug Nelson is a former volunteer firefighter. He says that change hasn't hurt response times. They're the same, if not better. But when the rating went up, so did his insurance premium by 30%.
The only explanation I was given is that the last few years, all the wildfires.
Like many of his friends on the island, Nelson is on a fixed income.
I get so much a year coming in, and that's not going to change for the rest of my life. And that takes a big chunk out of what my monthly income is.
We know our risks, and we know where those risks are. So we have an engine with 3 firefighters.
Chief Dennis Doan is the top boss of the Gig Harbor Fire Department and a leader with the Washington State Association of Fire Chiefs. He says the rating system needs an overhaul. The association is crafting legislation to create more oversight and, according to him, a more reasonable rating system.
I am just so frustrated with the metrics that insurance companies use and the different metrics that they use. And then what really frustrates me is that they throw their fire department under the bus.
Back in Loon Lake, near Spokane, wildlife is slowly coming back, 3 years after getting decimated by wildfire.
Nature's going to come back. And it has, and it did.
But it's one of those additional tools.
The chief of the department, Mike Busey, says the rating system needs to adapt as well, with the goal of bringing fairness to the homeowners of Washington State.
The more people that are aware of it, the more push towards a solution can be had.
Fire chiefs say they are crafting legislation with the hope of creating a fairer rating system. Finally, we travel to the most fireproof city in America. It's a town in Northern California where 6 years ago, a wildfire nearly destroyed every home there, and along with it, everyone's insurance. The residents of California say images like this one, the retreat fire near Yakima, will become more prevalent and say that Washington needs to learn from their tragedy.
This has got potential for a major incident.
Pretty bleak. I tried calling the house and the machine didn't pick up.
It wiped out Paradise.
You're looking at the deadliest fire in California history.
Gut-wrenching.
The Camp Fire devastated the small town of Paradise, killing 85 people and wiping out nearly every home.
The entire township collectively was punished by the fire.
And the house right there, it was a house. There's no house there now.
Cindy Lassonde is a volunteer with the Paradise Police Department. On November 8th, 2018, as flames closed in, she was stuck behind a line of cars and surrounded by a wall of fire. Lassonde had to evacuate.
I was praying the whole time, God, please don't let a tree or a power line go down, because if it does, I'm not going to be able to, we'll be stuck here. We will burn up.
Nearly 6 years later, there's still empty lots everywhere with crumbled cement, scorched fireplaces, and empty pools. The town was wiped out, and with it, their homeowners insurance.
Unfortunately, we're in the middle of a crisis, insurance crisis.
Gary Ledbetter's house was one of the first to burn down.
And you got to realize that was a bad day.
Where the rubble was 6 years ago, today replaced by a brand new home. Same spot, different building strategy.
My priority was to build a resilient home that was safe for my wife and I. But during fire season, the mat comes out.
Building a fire-resilient home wasn't just Gary's goal. The town of Paradise mandated it. It's a first for any town to implement requirements to use fire-resistant materials, specialized vents, and a 5-foot perimeter, essentially creating a fireproof home. Do you think that Paradise is a leader in the country?
We pretty much know that we are.
Mayor Ron Lassonde says to bring back the town's population, you have to bring back the insurance companies. So you are hopeful that building homes like this will entice insurers to come back?
Absolutely, because we have reduced the probability that this house will go down in a fire. I'm home.
Yes, you're home.
Mayor Lassonde is married to Cindy, the volunteer who got stuck behind the fire lines.
It looks like almost like any other vent, but it closes down on the inside.
Before the campfire rolled in, they'd already built with state-of-the-art fireproof materials, and it worked. Look at their house. It doesn't have a scratch on it, while the yard coming right up to it is scorched. Every single one of their neighbors lost their homes and their insurance. The Lassondes kept theirs.
We're thankful we didn't lose our house.
Now, eventually, this will all be pavers.
4 miles away at Gary Ledbetter's, he's hoping to get his insurance back.
During the build, I had a Bic lighter, and a little torch, and I didn't use materials that would catch fire.
So you were actually testing it yourself?
I was.
It should pay off. He now has one of the most fireproof homes in the country. Gary is the first recipient of a fireproof designation by a renowned safety research organization.
The plan is never to go through it again.
Ledbetter's hopeful the improvements will get his insurance back.
If the house doesn't burn down, the insurance company doesn't have to recover the cost of the home. The insurance crisis is spreading like a wildfire itself.
And I think a lot of people in Marin are more concerned about their homeowner's insurance being non-renewed than they are about their home being destroyed by fire.
To see Paradise, California's new rules in action, we traveled a few hours south.
These small spot fires are as if an ember has landed and lit that moat.
Where a safety fair featured testing of the so-called fireproof materials. The home on the left is a traditional house you'd find on the West Coast. The one on the right has a fire-resistant rating. Look what happens. In less than an hour, the house is gone. Check out the home to the right. Those fireproof materials required by law here did the job. There's nowhere in Washington that has similar regulations.
Request 15 additional engines.
And the people of Paradise, who suffered the loss of 90% of the homes in their town in just one day, say that's a mistake. Would you say that Washington's behind?
Yeah, Washington is behind. We've learned a lot of lessons the hard way. I would hope that people in Washington would learn it the soft way, that is, learn from our mistakes and not repeat them.
There is at least one county in Washington that mandates homeowners have a fireproof roof, and that's Chelan County. But experts in California say that is not enough to save your home, and it definitely will not bring insurance companies back. To learn more about today's Coverage Crisis series and get updates on future stories, text the word COVERAGE to 206-448-4545. Many of our stories begin with a tip. If you have a tip for us, email us at investigators@king5.com or scan the code on your screen. I'm Kristen Goodwoolley, and for all of the King 5 investigators, thank you for watching.